In my last American Dad video, we talked about Rogu, Roger's homunculus baby man alien that was introduced 250 episodes into the show and became a permanent member of not only the Smith family, but the series cast. And needless to say, his presence is certainly something that is a bit of a hot debate amongst fans. But what if there was a character that, like Rogu, was introduced later into the show and was generally well received by a majority of the fans, only for that character to then basically disappear? This could be used to describe a few different characters, but none fit the mold better than Reginald Koala. Some of you watching might be nodding your head in agreement, others might not even know who I'm talking about, and despite his limited time on the show, there's still quite a bit of depth to discuss with the character, both in-universe and in the context of the show as a whole. So join me today as we try to answer the question, whatever happened to Reginald?
Reginald's not gonna hold the boat much longer. He's doing the little dance he does when he's impatient.
We gotta go!
And hey, if you're a fan of American Dad, I want to spotlight actor Jeff Fisher, who plays the character of the same name. In August of last year, Jeff was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Unfortunately, there is no cure, but Jeff is doing a walk for hope this year to raise money to help fund research into treatments and hopefully an eventual cure. I just wanted to encourage anyone to either donate what you can or share the donation page, which you can find in the link of the description of this video. Thanks, and best of luck to Jeff.
Well, it's not easy to beat down a fool and still look.
Reginald's first appearance came from the Season 5 episode Family Affair. The B-plot revolves around Klaus getting tickets for the fabulous Thunderbirds for the entire family, and he is more excited than anyone ever has been to see that band.
I remember the Thunderbirds. Didn't Stevie Ray Vaughan play with them for a while?
Better, Stevie Ray Vaughan's older brother, Jimmy. You guys are so stoked.
Unfortunately, his catnip before the show turns into a deep 17-hour sleep, and he misses the entire thing. The rest of the family went without him, but his ticket did not go to waste.
Don't worry, Klaus, your ticket didn't go to waste. We gave it to that koala bear from the CIA with the brain of a homeless man.
Yep, that is exactly how Reggie is introduced, at the tail end of this random episode. What's interesting about this, though, is despite Roger's dialogue basically giving you the rundown of Reginald's origin, we then get a full theme song delving even deeper into his backstory. To give you a quick breakdown, Reginald used to be a homeless man living on the streets of Langley until he volunteered for a CIA experiment in return for some free food. Turns out the experiment was to switch his mind with that of a koala, and now the animal-man hybrid works for the CIA, using his marsupial features and cute exterior to gain as much information as he can. I guess you can say he's qualified for the job. Please keep watching. On the surface, this is a very cute and humorous way to introduce the character, but what I find the most fascinating is how this parallels what happened to Klaus, with his brain being put inside a goldfish by the CIA. There are a few differences in how these are handled, however. For one, they each were switched with the opposite objective in mind. What I mean by that is that the CIA wanted to put a goldfish's brain in Klaus's body to stop him from winning the gold medal at the Olympics, whereas with Reginald, they wanted to put his brain in a koala's body to help with missions. They never really cared about the human brain in the fish's body or the koala brain in the human body, since those were really the byproducts of their focus. But where these two really deviate is their attitude towards their situation. I mentioned in the Klaus video that early on, Klaus was extremely depressed about being what is essentially held prisoner in a goldfish body, no longer able to live his life the way he had hoped and dreamed. Reginald, on the other hand, from day one, seems to have taken it in stride. And given his backstory, it's not hard to see why. I mean, the theme song literally explains it.
Reginald, and he used to be nothing. Now he's a koala and he's cute as a button. Now he's a koala and he's cute as a button.
He basically had nothing in his old life and no one would give him the time of day, so when he's transformed into this koala who has a paying job and the adoration of every woman who lays eyes on him thanks to his little bear body, I'd call that a quality of life improvement. Please keep watching. Reggie's next appearance would be a few episodes later in Wife Insurance. In this episode, Stan reveals that if Francine died before him, he has a backup wife plan with his dentist. Francine, who's upset by this news, decides to get her own backup husband in Jim, one of Stan's co-workers, but she takes it to the next level by hanging out with him a lot more. This is basically where Reginald comes in and tells Stan that he needs to break things off with his dentist so that Francine can get rid of Jim.
You see what homeboy was packing in his Speedo? I mean, I can't relax. I'm in an inner tube, in a pool, with a drink, and I can't get right.
He returns later on in this episode after Jim tries to kill Stan in order to be with Francine, and he does not take the events lightly.
the Stan! Stan! Oh, nigga, you lost your damn mind, Jim! That was Stan!
Believe it or not, besides this and the small snippets we get in the theme song, we never actually see Reginald on any other CIA missions in the show. He's still seen hanging out with the other agents at the office or just hanging out outside of work, like in the episode Gorillas in the Mist, where he invites Stan and some other CIA buddies to go take a ride on his houseboat during spring break. And yeah, he may have accidentally crashed his houseboat into a few other boats, but at least we have confirmation that he's not homeless anymore. Good for him.
They got me, y'all. Watch my boat.
Well, I guess it was good while it lasted. Funnily enough, despite being co-workers and great friends with Stan, that's not actually the Smith he spends the most time with. In reality, most of the time that Reginald is on screen, it's showing his attempts to get in Haley's good graces so they can become a thing. Yep, that is now the second character we've covered on the show that had a small relationship with Haley, and while Bullock's fling is much more skeevy given the age difference between the two, as well as his true colors, I feel that it's still important to note that Reginald is a koala, so this isn't exactly a step in the right direction. Even with the show's animal person logic, it's still strange that no one ever really brings up that Haley used to date a koala.
What's the deal with Reginald? Are we going to talk about how you slept with a koala?
The story behind Reginald and Haley is where the majority of Reggie's screen time is shown off, and the circumstances behind it are actually pretty strange. For starters, the whole thing plays out in 3 separate B-plots of almost back-to-back episodes in Season 6, with the return of the bling, Cops and Roger, and Bully for Steve, with only 1 episode in between the latter 2. Not only that, these all take place continuously on the timeline as well, with basically very little time in between. To give you an idea of what I mean, let's look into each of these to see how the relationship starts, develops, and comes to an end. Starting with Return of the Bling. We see Reginald doing his laundry at the Smith house, and Haley approaches him very pissed about him accidentally shrinking the dress she was planning to wear to her date that night. Trying to mend the rift, Reggie invites Haley to the fairgrounds to see Shaggy.
You don't seem to get it. I don't like you.
I want to change that. I want to be your friend. That's why I'm taking you to Shaggy, Haley.
Haley!
He actually does manage to get in her good graces after beating someone up who called her a skank, but unfortunately the Reginald charm worked a little too well as she tries to make a move, despite both of them being in committed relationships.
Look, do I know if it's going to work out with my lady friend? No, I don't. But I have to respect Rhonda. If I didn't, I'd be just like those boys you run around with down at the schoolyard.
So they're able to leave things off as friends until Haley drunkenly flashes him.
Woo! She got the drop on old Reggie. Caught those full in the face. Those were guns, Reggie be dead.
Alright, moving on to Cops and Roger, which takes place a day or two after this incident. We see that Haley and Reggie are indeed on better terms, but things are a little awkward from the night before. So they decide that in order to smooth things out, they'll go on a double date. Unfortunately, this backfires as both of them then grow stronger romantic feelings for one another.
Oh, got your napkin. Hope you don't order finger foods.
Well, if I do, I'll just wipe my hands on your fur.
Oh, see, now you're getting brave.
And after another day or so passes, Reggie and Haley reveal to one another that they broke up with the person they were dating, and as you might expect, they decide to start dating each other. Hey, at least they had the common courtesy to end their relationships before starting a new one, because, you know, that would look pretty bad if they didn't.
Hello, Ian. I want to break up.
Damn, Haley, if there was a contest for coldest moves, that would definitely be a qualifier. Please keep watching. We actually don't see the storyline pay off until 2 episodes later, which makes sense with the timeline, since the next time we see Reggie in Bully for Steve, he just got back from a CIA mission in China, so it's safe to say that it's been about a month or so since the double date.
Woo, long mission. China be huge. What up to me? Where Whoopi at? You probably don't know that movie. How old are you? How old am I?
And after so long, we finally see them go out on a date to the fairgrounds. And despite some hiccups, they have a really good time.
Trying to create a moment with this girl. I respect this bitch. I love this bitch.
Oh, I'm a sucker for love. Wrap your arms around that bitch. Never let her go.
That is, until we get the grand return of Jeff Fisher, Haley's on-again, off-again boyfriend from the early days of the show, who's been missing for over a season at this point. Turns out he got a job at the fair, and seeing him again has brought up some complicated emotions for Haley that ruin the date, as well as muddier feelings for Reginald. But Reggie, being the class act that he is, lays it all down in order to not only show Haley how he truly feels, but also to be true to himself. He basically decides that he has his own life, and if she doesn't feel the same way about him, then that's that.
Ah, yeah, you take as much time as you... No, you know what? I'm done pretending. I love you, Haley. I always have.
Reggie, I had no idea.
No, you didn't.
And thus ends the short relationship between Reggie and Haley. I'll give it this much, it lasted longer than what was going on with Bullock, and it was definitely healthier, but it's interesting that this time around, Haley was the one who was causing these issues for the most part. Though, like with Bullock, it was Jeff who once again got her thinking about what she wants in the future. And ironically enough, it's Jeff, the character who all but stole Haley from Reggie, that is the catalyst for Reggie's final major role in the show, and quite possibly his most prominent role to date, that being the season 7 premiere, 100 AD, also known as the episode where Jeff and Haley get married.
Whoa, you got a limo. Are you rich?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm rich. I'm a millionaire. So I wear this stupid hat and drive this long bitch.
Basically, Haley and Jeff decide to run away and elope, and Stan and Francine are so against this idea, they put out a large bounty to whoever can stop Haley and Jeff's wedding. Reggie hears about this and cares more about winning Haley back than the money.
I'm gonna call my man at Jewelry Galleria. Yo, Doug, I need a diamond. Doesn't have to be big, but make it flawless. That's friend price. You let me down, Doug.
Unfortunately, he's on chauffeur duty, and the person he's driving around is none other than Bullock, someone else who's been in a relationship with Haley. And while Reggie sees her as a full independent woman, let's just say that Avery doesn't. This leads to what is probably the most iconic moment Reggie had in the entire show.
What's all this now? Why are we stopping?
You and I are gonna fight in the field.
The fight itself is very entertaining, but it's what comes after that really drives the whole thing home.
Are you ready to apologize?
I apologize to the maids at the Red Roof Inn who had to clean the curtains after I...
You have a mother, and you just said all that. I'm gonna call your mama and tell her what you said.
Don't.
And other than a few more appearances throughout this season and the next for a scene or two, that's basically all there is to Reginald's story on the show, at least as a prominent character. And from what I just explained, for those of you who haven't seen the episodes with Reginald, you're probably confused as to how this character became such a fan favorite, despite his limited screen time. I will say, it makes much more of an impact to actually watch him than to have someone explain his time on the show. But even with all of this, and the fans clamoring for more, Reginald was basically sidelined soon after Haley and Jeff's wedding. What was the deal with that? Is there an actual reason to why Reginald was basically cut to only non-speaking cameo appearances and blink and you'll miss it Easter eggs? And is there a chance that Reggie could return in the future?
There's a koala named Reginald for a while. Forget what happens to him.
The first thing to look at when dissecting what happened to Reginald is who voiced him. At first, Reggie was voiced by Donald Fullilove in Family Affair and Wife Insurance, who you might recognize as Mayor Goldie Wilson from the Back to the Future series.
Easy, baby. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. Except I'm a koala.
However, in all his other major appearances going forward, he was voiced by Eric Durbin, who was actually a writer for the show at the time, and had voiced a few other one-off characters like Randy.
Hey, how'd you get your kids so into hiking?
Well, Haley's always loved being outdoors, and Steve got into it because I called it trekking, and he thought Nimoy would be involved.
You got a dumb nerd son, Stan.
Now, in regards to Reggie's disappearance, some people think that this is a situation similar to what happened to Mike Barker, where after the jump was made from Fox to TBS, Mike didn't make the jump with them, and as such, they wrote out the characters that he voiced. And technically, this is also true of Eric Durbin, since he hasn't written for the show since the jump was made. And though you could point out that both Mike Barker and Eric Durbin are credited to have worked on season 12, the show's first season on TBS, that season was always in a weird space between Fox and TBS, so it wouldn't shock me if it was created for Fox and ended up on TBS as a holdover, therefore crediting a bunch of the Fox crew that didn't make the jump over. However, this being the case for why Reginald has stopped appearing is false. Now hear me out. Barker's characters, such as Terry Bates, had appeared in a speaking role as close to the TBS Fox jump as the bizarre 3-episode season 11, which is right before the jump to TBS took place. Meanwhile, Reginald's last speaking role was actually in season 9's The Missing Kink, and it was just one line during a song, and it had been just over a season since his previous appearance, so it's clear that by this point the writers were already trying to phase out the character, or at least limit him so he wasn't as much of a recurring role as he was in seasons 6 and 7. Not to mention, Reginald actually gets one last speaking cameo role in A Song of Knives and Fire, which is a season 19 episode, taking place as recently as 2022.
And I know I've got matches in here somewhere. Phone. Brick.
What up, Franny?
There was also speculation that maybe Reginald was phased out because the character, pre-Koala body, was black, and the actor, Eric Durbin, was white. But Durbin was the second actor to play the role after Full-O-Love, and this last appearance the character was voiced by Arif Zahir, who is the current voice of Cleveland on Family Guy. So the reality is that if they wanted to use Reginald more, they would have found a way. So that's probably enough beating around the bush, which is ironically where most koalas live. But if the character was a fan favorite and the rotating door of voice actors wasn't the reason behind his disappearance, then what exactly caused the koala to leave the limelight? Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. In an article from the AV Club interviewing series co-creators Mike Barker and Matt Weitzman, as well as series writer Jordan Bloom, one of the questions they were asked was if there's anything in the show that wasn't as successful as they hoped it would be. And in addition to saying they had to wean off of Haley and Stan's political arguments after season 1, Mike Barker also said, "Also, the koala bear, Reginald. We realized after a few episodes that was actually skewing us a little back more to the Family Guy model of another talking animal. For some reason, when the idea was pitched by a writer in the room, it was so funny we didn't really give that possibility enough credence, but," Jordan Bloom responded, "and it opened up good Haley stories, but at the end of the day, I don't think we needed any more talking animals." The article itself was written in September of 2012, right on the precipice of the season 9 premiere, so looking at what we just discussed and cross-referencing with the snippet from the article, everything starts to line up and make sense. Now personally, do I agree with the sentiment? I'm a bit mixed on it. I will admit that when Reginald is on screen, his charisma and comedy is very infectious, and it does make me appreciate what little of him there really is. There's really no doubt in my mind as to how he became a fan favorite character, and as Jordan mentioned in the article, it did give them opportunities to write new Haley stories, which was very much needed at this point. There really was a major Haley drought in seasons 5 through 8. It's kind of insane how much more they utilized her after Jeff got abducted by aliens.
I made it into the episode. Pay me, bitches.
Haha, me too.
And yet, at the same time, I don't necessarily disagree with the Family Guy model critique that Mike mentioned either. I mean, Reggie's most defining feature at this point was doing whatever he could to get Haley to fall for him. That sounds a little similar to Brian Griffin's womanizing antics, just in a much more respectable and charismatic way.
Oh, slipping, sorry.
And if a character only exists as a vehicle to lift up another character and have them gain new perspectives and storylines, then you either have to make some major changes to said character to make them work on their own, or just stop using the character entirely. And in the case of Reginald, it seems like the latter was chosen. But just because this is the case, that doesn't mean that Reginald is completely gone. Like I said, he still does appear throughout the rest of the show, mostly in non-speaking cameos, and a lot of the time he does appear, it's either to poke fun at the lack of the character's appearance, or to rub salt in the wound for all the fans who really want to see him make his grand return.
Detective Turlington, Joe Chandler, Tom from the grocery store, Trey, Billy, James Hetfield, Devon, Krampus, David Axelrod. Never mind, the votes are in.
Hell, even when he's not physically on screen, they really love teasing his return like the ultimate bait and switch.
That's right, Dadders. Jeff has superpowers. Tune in next week and see if we deal with that. And maybe Reginald will come back.
Now, do I think this means Reginald has a chance of coming back? I mean, at this point, anything is possible. We've seen characters return years after their absence, like with Evil Barry, who had a 13-year gap between his appearances. And with the show moving back to Fox, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a surprise return from another missing character or two. But to be completely honest, I think Reginald might stay where he's at right now in the series, relegated to small background, non-speaking cameos. Or, at best, his presence might be like Season 7 and Season 8, where he still works at the CIA and pals around with Stan and the other co-workers, but that's about it. I mean, they can't really do anything with him and Haley anymore since Haley and Jeff are happily married, so that already kind of defeats the main purpose of his original inclusion. I wouldn't say no to more episodes with Reginald, and if you want him back in the show, I completely understand your reasoning, but to me, I'd prefer to look back fondly at the good times we had with him, and remember Reginald for what he was, rather than risk sullying that up with something in the future. I know one thing's for certain, whether they bring him back or not, he'll always be cute as a button.
Sometimes I'll be on missions, and sometimes I'll just be here at the house. But my number one duty is to say howdy doody to your fruity.
Cute as a button.
Folks, thanks for tuning in to another American Dad video. This one was once again written by the great Dan the Man Show. Make sure to check out his channel for more American Dad videos and our other videos on Avery Bullock, Klaus, and Rogu here on this channel. And of course, stay tuned for more in the future. Peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.